Alright, what's up you guys? It's Alninio here, and we're going to be updating our new rune page for patch 8.4 and onwards from here. Now, of course, I took time to experiment with runes, to experiment with the new items, and all that before making a video on it, because I know a lot of YouTubers like to rush things and quickly, oh, let's get this video out. So, rest assured, I did try these new runes out before making this video. I did try out different build paths before making this video. So let's dive right in, shall we? First off, we got this rune page right here. This is Domination and Sorcery. So we go as usual. This remains the same way as before. We go Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter. Now here, you have different options now. Before, Precision, Triumph, Coup de Rat were the two single best options for Katarina, because first of all, Triumph is so good on Cat because of her nature with the resets. And funnily enough, the quote that says here, the most dangerous game brings the greatest glory, Noxian Reckoner. Keep in mind the word Noxian Reckoner. It just fits Katarina really well, and it fits her theme being a Noxian, but that's besides the point. This Triumph slot is really good. Coup de Rat, not so much. It has been nerfed. Does this mean it's a bad rune? No. This can still work in some occasions. But by no means would I consider this a main rune page for me anymore. This used to be, but now it gives you adaptive and plus 5.5% attack speed, which is not ideal for someone like Cat anyway. But I just think Coup de Rat in general is not the best option anymore. Generally speaking, because it has been nerfed, it is not the best option for Cat. So, what do you do? So here's what you do. This is the common rune page that I go on Cat. Celerity, Gathering Storm. Why Celerity? Why not Absolute Focus? Why not something else? Why this? The reason I go for Celerity is because I get increased movement speed, which fits my roaming playstyle. I like to roam a lot. I like to go top, bot. I like to chase people. I like to escape people. And keep in mind that movement speed gives you ability power, meaning that if after you use W on Cat, you get a boost in AP. To be more specific, 8% of ability power, adaptive at which rate you have more. So early game, you're going to have more AD because you go double longswords. And as you progress into the game, you're going to get AP. W itself gives you move speed. Now, of course, keep in mind now, of course, you might be saying, well, that's not very useful. You just use W once. Wrong. With Katarina, you use W so often in fights and resets. You can QEWR, get two daggers on top of each other, and then quickly jump on another, and then W immediately. That one W gives you move speed and gives you AP. And AP is such a good stand on Cat, so you definitely want to go for that. Also, the new Rabadon with double needlessly large rods are really good on Cat. So just generally speaking, Celerity is very good on Cat. Gathering Storm, because I like to scale. This can be whatever. You want Scorch to poke, but I don't think Cat's a poking champion. I really think she scales well into mid-game, and I prioritize Gathering Storm, but you can choose whatever. Absolute Focus is great too. You can go for that instead of Celerity if you want. If you don't want movement speed, you can go Absolute Focus. Works as well. Fully up to you. Now, what do you do against tougher matchups? So what I do is I go Bone Plating, Second Wind. This rune page right here is insanely good against hard matchups like Vladimir, Cassiopeia, etc., etc., etc. The reason being is because Second Wind has not been changed. It is still an absolutely amazing rune to have. Plus, Doran Shield will also give you a lot of regeneration. So after you take damage from champions, you heal for 4% of your missing health. Doran Shield, what does it do? It heals you after you take damage from an enemy champion. So imagine all this healing you get. Bullet Plating helps because since we cannot go Mirror Shell or Iron Skin anymore, which is what we used to do before, because those were really good for sustain, now we go Bone Plating. Because this will give us this sort of resistance in lane against poke champions like Vlad, Zed. This can work against Zed. Champions where you generally will struggle. This is very good. Bryce, Rise is a good rune page against Rise. You can go for this against Malzahar. Anything like that. Fully up to you. If you don't want that, you can stick with Sorcery and go for this, which is the rune page that I use mainly, but I do go Resolve when I need to in certain matchups. But this is the rune page for Cat. Now to the items, which is the most important part now. We have new items that are being introduced in League of Legends. We got some pretty interesting stuff, so let me explain to you one thing before we jump in. Morello is not a late game item. I played with this. I think it's good early on, but you want to sell this later on in the game. There's actually better options. I think even Liandry's Torment is better late game because that's when people stack a lot of health and build a lot of health for you, and you have to have this sort of pressure in the late game. And I hit my microphone a little bit there, I apologize, but you get what I mean. You have this sort of pressure in the late game. Liandry's Torment gives you that. Rabadon's Death Cap gives you that. So you want to get an item in the late game that is better than Morello, because this is strictly an early game item. So now that I got that out of the way, how do we build Cat? You start off Door Shield or Dark Shield, depending on the matchup. If you're against Vladimir, Rise, harder matchups like whatever, Malzahar, Rise, Vladimir, these are pretty annoying champions to play against. Go Door Shield and Second Wind. Every time you go Door Shield, I would highly suggest you go Second Wind, and you go for the Resolve tree, because Door Shield is really good in that sense. Now let's say you're not in a harder matchup. You go Dark Seal and Health Pots. Door Shield, Health Pot, in the other way. So you still go, obviously, Health Pots. You don't go Refillable. You go Refillable when on your first back when you have enough gold. If not, don't buy it. But buying a Refillable on your second back or first back is really good because it's money efficient. So I would suggest that. The rest is up to you. Obviously, you get a totem and then control ward whenever you have to. Now, core items. You absolutely want to get Gunblade. Gunblade is the single best core item to this day. Since Katarina's rework, it has remained the absolute core item on Cat for all the good reasons. And I'm sure you guys know most of the reasons, because it just works. It's just strong. It has AD. It has the long swords, which help you a lot early game. And then you have the revolver because you auto attack after you EW or QE auto attack or things like that. It's a good stat to have, and also heals, and it works with Ravenous Hunter. Go Gunblade. Your next option, basically, let me just explain this properly. Okay, you go 2 long swords, revolver, and then you pick a tier 2 boot. Okay, this is how I build. You don't have to build exactly the same way I do, but this is how I do it. Double longsword, because early AD is very good on Cat, and it fits Katarina's base stats with AD. Okay, so you go double longswords, revolver, Sork Shoes, Merc Treads, or Ninja Tabi. If you're against the Sejuani jungle, or you're up against a mid lane CC with a Sejuani jungle, Merc Treads is a solid choice. If they have a Lulu, Merc Treads, solid choice. Don't be afraid to go for this if you're against heavy CC teams, because dealing with those CC teams are not fun. So get a Merc Tread to stop that. You don't have to go Sork Shoes every single game just because it's flat magic penetration. Some games you have to play around things differently. Get a Sork Shoes if you feel like they don't have that much CC and you want flat magic pen, which, by the way, flat magic penetration is one of the best stats on Katarina, because the flat stats really just deal a lot for Cat, and just having it with you in the early to mid stages of the game is just way too good to have. It's just way too good. The most effective time to buy flat magic pen is in the early and the mid game. So you get a Sork Shoes, and then you go for Oblivion Orb, which will also give you 15 magic penetration. So you get magic pen from this, magic pen from that. Magic pen, just flat stats mean more early game. So when they have no MR or very low MR, very good. Once they have over 65 MR, it's time to get a voice staff. This is not going to come in handy. That's why I say Morello, Sell it late game. You don't need that anymore. You can keep it if you want, but Liandry is a better choice in the late game. That's when people start stacking health. And since Liandry's been changed, and it does now 1% of max health per second, that is a very good stat to have in the later stages of the game. So just the fact that you deal 1% of max health per second, just that alone, screams late game. So you want to get that later on. So basically, let's go over this again, right? You have Gobblade, Soak Shoes, now you have Oblivion Orb. Your next item will be completely dependent on what the enemy buys. So if they have a lot of Amar, skip Morello. Fuck it. You are not going to do any damage if you go Morello and they all have Amar. Right? Like their whole team, I'm talking like their whole team has Amar and their AD carry has Amar at this stage of the game. Get a Void Staff immediately. In that case, you can go Oblivion Orb into Zhonya. Zhonya is one of the best items to get on Cat because it is not only aggressive, but it is also defensive. Very defensive and very aggressive, both at the same time due to its active. And it still gives you good damage, so there's no problem there. That's what I do. Oblivion Orb. After Oblivion Orb, I go Zhonya. After that, you could choose to go Morello or Void Staff. Look at the enemy items. Again, do they have a lot of Amar? Okay, time to buy Void Staff. No? I'll finish Morello. Right? So you get that or that. Void Staff, then you finish Morello. Or Morello, and then you finish Void Staff. Okay, so now you have these items. They're great. Morello is really good because it gives you 300 HP, which increases your survivability, your ability to survive team fights. It's good to have that. If the 300 health was not there or the flat magic pen, this item would be trash. But it is good because of the health that it gives and the flat magic pen stats. So you get that. After that, your final item is going to be a Rabadon. And then, sell Morello, get a Liandry's Torment. Now here's the thing about Spellbinder. Spellbinder is a good item, but it focuses so much on getting charges, on capping it to a certain level, which I am not a fan of. Let me explain to you. Let's go back on runes real quick. There was this rune page. It was called, it's still here, Dark Harvest. It focuses on getting charges to become effective, and once you reach that certain level, you become strong, right? I'm not a fan of that. I just go Electrocute because it fits Cat's burst theme more. Same thing with the items here. I feel like Cat is the type of champion that doesn't need to get charges and try to scale based on charges. Katarina is a monster killing assassin. I go in, you're dead. You could go for that. I'm not saying Spellbinder is a terrible item. It might work. You can get it after Gunblade. It could work. But am I a fan of this item? No. Can you be a fan of this item? Yes. It is completely personal preference, I think, when it comes to this item. I don't think it's core. I think it's completely optional based on your playstyle. And I personally do not want to buy this because it focuses so much on getting charges to become effective and like grinding through that to become effective. But luckily you don't have to do anything because nearby allies and enemy spellcast, they charge up your Spellbinder, so it's good even against Cassiopeia, really. So you could go for this if you want. But again, if you want a snowball item, just go Rabadon. Rabadon is one of the single best snowballing items in the game. If you want NLR recipes like this, go Rab. Rab is a phenomenal item. So right here, this is how a build path looks. Gunblade, Sock Shoes, Morello, we go Oblivion Orb, Zhonya, finish Morello or Void based on what they build. I finish Void, I finish Morello. Now I choose Rabadon, sell Morello, get a Liandry's Torment. If they don't stack HP, get something else. You can sell Morello for a Rylai, which by the way, is not bad now. For once, actually Rylai is not bad. They increased the AP, which means it's pretty solid now actually. The AP is a good stat to have along with the rune slot that I go on Sorcery, which is Gathering Storm. So you get a lot of AP from that. You could go for this. It works. It is completely up to you. Items I rarely go are Hexdrinker, QSS, Lichbane, Banshees. I don't like to go for Banshee because it's too defensive. You can if you want. Yes, it can be seen as underrated. I'm not a fan of it because I like to play Katarina the snowball way, focusing on pure raw damage and flat magic penetration into the early and mid game, and then scaling off in the late game with percentage magic penetration and percentage max HP damage with Leandries that comes in later on in the game. Morello, as a whole, is not a good item in the late game. It's a very good item in the early to mid game. One of the best because of its flat raw stats and the HP that gives its viability. Along with that, it gives you free AP and Grievous Wounds. Why not? It's good to have Grievous Wounds. Good item in the early to mid game. Later on, sell this. Get rid of it. Next up, you just consumables. You just get Elixir of Sorcery whenever you want, and that's pretty much it. That really is about all the room pages for Katarina and all the items explained and what to go, when to go for it, etc., etc. Hopefully, this pinpointed your decision behind patch 8.4 if you can't decide what you're going to get. I have gained the experience of patch 8.4. I have played decent amount of games to get a decent amount of understanding on the items, and there's a lot of people that like to rush things. There's a lot of YouTubers that like to rush things. Okay, patch 8.4 is out. I'm gonna immediately put a video explaining everything, even though I didn't experiment things myself. So what I do is I took time. I took my time to get a solid video explaining things so that people can get a better idea of it. And also, it helps me get a better understanding of it because I give myself time to understand the whole thing. And this is my preferred room page. These are my preferred items. And hopefully, this has helped you out. And make sure you guys follow me on my stream if you guys would like. It will be on the screen right now. Hit that follow if you would like to check out some live Katarina gameplay and be part of the chat and all that stuff. If you want to see my full Katarina guide, it is going to be in the description down below. It's my mobile fire guide. It's currently at around like 5+ million views. It's really been growing throughout the years, so make sure you check it out if you wanted to get more information about matchups, for example, and all that stuff. Anything like that, this is more in depth. This is just like a short version video of that whole guide. So make sure you guys check it out. It's going to be in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. And thank you guys so much for 6,000 subscribers as well. Much love to all the people who have been supporting me since day one. And I will see you guys on the Rift. Peace out.